Conservation Commission meeting for April the 25th, 2024. We as a commission operate under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 26 of the Town of Danvers General Bylaw, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. After each applicant presents his or her request and the board has had time to ask questions and discuss the project, we will accept questions from the audience. Because this is a public meeting, it is required by law that you give your name and address before you speak. Although we may disagree on the issues raised, all persons present during this meeting are expected to be civil to all of the meeting attendees. This includes the members of the commission, staff, abutters, concerned citizens, property owners, and project applicants. We also request that you confine your questions to the project and only as it pertains to the Wetlands Act. We cannot handle, nor do we have jurisdiction over matters such as noise or traffic. All problems not related to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Danvers Wetlands Protection Bylaw must be taken up with the other appropriate boards. Our first order of business will be a roll call. Peter Wilson is present. Jonathan Garres.
Present.
Mary Haight. Ann McGill.
Present.
And Michael Splain.
Yeah.
It's 4 members, so we do have a quorum. First item on our agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance for 40 Riverside Street, DEP file number 14-1367. The applicant is Richard and Rachel McIver.
Good evening,
Mr. Griffin
Bob.
is here to represent the McIvers.
Yes, good evening, Bob Griffin on behalf of the McIvers. This was a house reconstruction project. They tore down the house and rebuilt it. I think the work has followed the approved plan very carefully. There's been some stormwater improvements in the back of the house. Infiltration trench was installed there, and all the roof runoff goes into the infiltration trench. There's a number of planting beds that were provided around the house to sort of improve the landscape and the habitat value. There was a little more here. There used to be a brick patio there, and on the plan it was supposed to be saved, but they ended up removing it and replacing it with lawn, and I think the place looks great.
Okay.
Okay, has anyone from the planning department been out to review?
Yeah, staff visited the site March 15th of this year, and after review of the order of conditions issued back in August of 2021, agree that the project has completed work that is substantially in accordance with the commission-approved plans and that the wetland resource areas have been protected during the construction and recommend issuing a certificate of completion at this time.
Okay, thanks. Let me ask the members of the board if they have any further questions. Mike, have any?
No, I have the pictures. The project looks good.
Yeah,
Looks like they did a good job.
they did, yeah.
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Yeah, no questions. I think they did a great job. Looks great.
Good. Ann, any questions?
No questions.
Is there any public input, questions, comments? Seeing none? Someone can make a motion, we'll grant a certificate of compliance.
Certificate of completion is what it says here. Make a motion that we issue a certificate of completion for the work associated with DEP file number 14-1367 at 40 Riverside Street.
I'll second the motion for, to issue a certificate of compliance.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
You're all set? Oh, and thanks for being timely. It's what, 2 years? Closer to 3, but that's fine. Okay, next up is a request for a certificate of compliance for 35 River Street, DEP file number 14-1201. The applicant is the Town of Danvers.
Hi, my name is Luke Taylor, engineer with GZA, located at 144 Elm Street in Amesbury, representing the Town of Danvers. This project was originally permitted back in 2012, and the work was never completed. It's a peer reconstruction project, and actually we're going to be on the agenda for basically resurrecting the project and going through permitting and making some minor changes to it. So this project was never complete, so we're just asking for a request for certificate of compliance for not completing the work.
Just to close out the order of conditions.
Exactly.
Right.
Was any work performed?
That was the one question that I had, is that in the package that was submitted to us for this certificate of compliance, it said some of the work was completed, but didn't say exactly what work. So that was the only question that I had, was what work actually was completed under that previous NOI?
I'd have to go back through, but from the top of my head, I believe some float modifications. It was the standard 6x20 floats out there, but I think they replaced one for that 10x20. And I think there may have been the finger floats, that a few of them were replaced, but no pier work was done. It's a pier reconstruction project. None of the pier work was completed. To my knowledge, they didn't add any floats. So the only float expansion would be the 10x20 versus a 6x20, and I believe some of the fingers were a little bit wider, from a 3 by to a 4 foot wide. But I don't know off the top of my head exactly how many or which locations.
Okay, so this is more or less procedural. We just have this one closed so they can ask for a new one.
Well, I have a question to pose.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
So maybe to staff or to you, but, so, this is not a situation where no work was done. Some work was done. Do we go and inspect the work that was done, and how do we distinguish a certificate of compliance where some work was done but the project wasn't completed? I mean, how, is it just a blanket COC?
So this was my question. This was my only question that I didn't know the answer to, because the NOI, which we're not talking about quite yet, was extremely comprehensive of exactly what they're doing, why, and everything is certainly in order there. Unfortunately, the harbor master was not able to be here, but he did supply a memo for the following NOI at this site. It is just a blanket closeout of that DEP file number, however.
So does this new NOI address the same area? It's going
Exactly.
sort of going to do the work that would have been done on the earlier NOI?
That is correct. So the NOI that is next,
Right.
14-1415,
Right.
that has a number of floats as well as the pier as well, the total pier reconstruction. So it accounts for all the work that is going to be happening on that site.
All right, well, good, that clears it up, thank you. So, I think we should
Just
do it.
routine, sure.
Yeah.
Jonathan, any questions?
Yeah, no questions.
Ann?
No, I've got all my notes on it.
Okay, just one quick question. Do we know why no work was ever done? Was it?
I think it was funding.
It was
never
funding.
approved?
Yeah.
It was funding.
So it was never funded?
No money.
We just didn't have all of the funding, and we didn't want to do a portion, we didn't want to do half of the project, so I think we did the very minimum just of the few things that we could do.
Okay, good, thanks. Is there any public comments, questions? Hearing none? Let's get this done.
All right, I'll make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 35 River Street, DEP file number 14-1201.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
don't go anywhere.
Wouldn't dream of it.
Next,
Notice of intent is for 35 River Street, DEP file number 14-1415. The applicant is Town of Danvers.
So again, Lucas Taylor, engineer with GZA, located at 144 Elm Street, in Amesbury, representing the town. So this project, as we kind of started to allude to, is for the full pier reconstruction. There's also various float modifications to address some safety concerns and just the general orientation of the site to improve access and mobility. I think it was about a week ago that several of the commission members were able to meet us on site. So we were able to describe the project, get a lay of the land. There weren't any major concerns that I recall at that time. So the town anticipates, or they're applying for funding, which will be coming up very shortly through the Seaport Economic Council grant. And if approved, the project would ideally be constructed over the wintertime in the off-season. And it would probably take a month or two max. Be pretty straightforward. Brian, I don't know if you got, but I believe the Division of Marine Fisheries just sent over a comment letter.
Yes.
Yes, actually, they have a paper copy in front of them. I also can put it up. We would obviously be referencing that memo as part of the, any conditions. You can either share that info with everyone now, or I can put up the memo, but there were a number of conditions that they put that seem very reasonable, and as staff, we were pleased to get it.
Yep, no, we agree. Talked with my team, and fortunately couldn't catch Chris, but these are all very standard for our line of work, and if you guys want to reference them and, the standards of condition, or, in the order of condition, we'd be fine with that. We don't see any issues with the work and complying with the DMF's comments. So I guess with that, I would open it up to any questions from the commission members or any comments.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up question from a site visit last week. The aluminum gangway that's there now?
Yep.
Is that going to be reused? For
Correct.
the 90-degree turn?
Correct. Yep, the pier would be extended out seaward, almost to the float line, and then the existing gangway would be reused. It would take off from the pier about 90-degree angle and land on new landing floats.
And there's just one new float? Is that correct?
It's 2 new floats. We're removing a couple. 'Cause if you remember, we were there unfortunately at high tide, so you couldn't tell, but I'm going to go up here. There's 2 floats right here that ground out at low tide.
Right,
Or
they-
extreme low tides.
They bought them out.
Those
yeah.
ones are being removed, and then this L shape here is getting relocated into within the marine reconfiguration zone.
Right. And pilings, they're going to be the same number of pilings or piles?
It's technically more because it's a longer pier, but the spans are going to be longer between the bents.
Right.
So it's a 90 feet long pier, 3 bents, 3 sets of piles, essentially.
Using the metal pilings? What do you
It would
use?
probably be timber for the pier. Then if you remember, there's a gallows frame to lift the gangway.
Yeah.
That would maintain steel piles. We'd use steel for that.
So where would you use timber piles?
Underneath the pier itself. So it's
So just
timber
the
out there
two-
right now.
2 sets on the land side.
Yeah, underneath the pier, yep. Yep.
Okay, but those in the water are going to be the metal, I think is what I heard at the site visit.
We're proposing timber. I mean, this is something that, unless it's, it'll be the same impact area. So unless it's a concern as far as, material type that you guys are specifying, that could be resolved by the time bid docs, we get to final design.
I thought that was discussed, the metal.
I thought we did talk about that too.
Oh.
Well, the gallows frame piles will be metal.
Correct, yep.
Yeah.
But the other
Okay, but
ones will be
the
timber.
DMF in their letter says if treated piles are used, they recommend chromated copper arsenate.
Right.
Yep, I believe CCA is in the application right now. Yep.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have, so let me pass it along. Mike, any questions?
Yeah, you're requesting a waiver for work within the buffer zone. What is the zone you're requesting a waiver from, and what is the work you want to do in the buffer?
So I guess it's essentially all the work is in a resource area.
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys saw it's a parking lot right up to the edge of the pier. So the work would, obviously the float work is all within the water. They'd float all the floats in place. The pier itself would likely have a crane on land. So essentially, it's in a parking lot. It's in disturbed area, but that's, by definition, it's a buffer zone. So I guess that's where the waiver comes in.
Yeah, okay.
That's it?
I have a question. Where is the proposed access for the contractors? Are they going to be using the land above the resource area to access the work area? Or are they using barge or?
That would be up to the contractor, so I guess either. And I know the DMF, they mentioned if
Right.
barge don't ground
right.
out. So they would either have to stay within the channel if they were using a barge, or they would have to only use the barge at high tide. Other than that, all the work can be essentially done from within the disturbed areas, the pavement areas, the walkway and the asphalt, and everything would be restored in kind after the completion of the work.
That strip of hatched area along the coastal bank there, just to the left of the proposed gangway there. Yeah, that. Is that an existing wetland?
That's about what what we surveyed, the Wetly salt marsh.
Okay.
When we went out there.
Yep.
And I know it fluctuates, and you guys have been losing a lot of marsh on that edge, but when it was surveyed, that was the limits.
Okay, I didn't know if that was a proposed mitigation area or something like that.
No,
Yep.
none of that was proposed for
Just
this project.
existing marsh. Yep, all right.
All set, Jonathan?
Yeah, no other questions there. Yeah.
Ann, any questions?
The fueling is a concern for the equipment that's being used. So how are you planning on refueling the equipment as you need it?
Yeah, any equipment that would be used would stay within the existing, asphalt parking area, and would be refueled there. And I think, as the DMF noted, each equipment would need its own spill kit, which is standard. They'd have to comply with all regulations. They could also set up a barrier and have, an oil boom that lays on the ground around equipment too when refueling. All that's quite standard, especially for marine contractors from around here.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All set, Ann? Quick question on that concrete abutment that you're going to anchor the pier to. There's going to be excavation for that, correct?
Yep, that would be excavated. Yep, correct.
Is your erosion control highlighted on this drawing?
No, I don't think it's highlighted on the drawing. I think it was mentioned in the application, the text itself, but I know you have the wetland, or you have essentially salt marsh on each side, so they would need erosion control on each side of the pier, basically. And there's existing riprap underneath the pier as is, and that would be maintained.
That's going to stay?
Yep.
How do we assure that that's part of the commitment they're making?
If it's not on a plan, then it is I'm sure that it's in the narrative, but we typically don't call out the narrative, we call out the plans. So you can just put that as a condition on top of the only thing that's not on, in my memo is the DMF memo that came out
Right.
today.
Yeah.
So as of right now, if we're keeping tally, it would be, the conditions that we're talking about are keeping the riprap underneath, and then the one that you just said, I missed that.
The concrete, the erosion control?
The erosion control, and then the DMF memo.
Okay. Okay. Are we all set as a board then for questions? Anyone in the public have any comment? Mr. Bradstreet?
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. The conversation mentioned piers or floats. My question is, are they now, or will they all be handicap accessible when this project is completed? That's it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, no. I think the town looked into ADA accessibility, the original permitting go-around, but no, this is not an ADA compliant full marina at this point.
Does it have to be?
Is that a showstopper?
To my knowledge, no.
What do you think, Brian?
Same, to my knowledge, it is not required.
Okay, I mean, sure, they've done their homework, so I'm going
Yeah,
to...
that wouldn't be anything we would weigh in
It's
on.
not
Right.
us anyway, no.
Okay, any other questions then?
No?
No?
I had one question, which is, I believe it was answered, but it was the laydown area, that's all just going to be on the paved surface?
Correct.
Okay, that was my only one that wasn't, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Bradstreet has another question?
Not a question, but a comment. I'm very disappointed that this work isn't handicap accessible for whatever reason. The town or whoever made the decision, it wasn't necessary. I am disappointed, and I'm sure other people who would like to make access to this area or these floats or piers feel that they're not being treated fairly because it is not handicap accessible. Just a comment on
Do you
my
know of
opinion.
other piers that are handicapped accessible?
Well, it seems to me that
Bill?
Chris talked about one, I think, near Pope's. I think that I got the right one. I have the right one, is there has to be a handicap, however it's done. I believe if Chris was here, he could probably explain to you. I can't, because I'm not a boating person. I
So
only
the
use,
accessibility would be for a handicapped person to be able to go down a ramp,
Right.
get on a pier and get into a boat?
without, say, if they were in a wheelchair per se, they wouldn't be going down a ramp and end up in the river. I'm not sure what it entails. It's just that the way things are today, I'm just disappointed that the town,
I'm not sure how it applies
I
to
don't know if
them.
there is
And
such
I'm-
a thing.
it's an observation more on my part.
It's not our purview, but do you know? Are there piers that are handicapped for
boating?
I'm talking about where someone could go down a ramp, get onto a pier and go
I
in
think
a
there are
boat?
some. I think it's pretty unique because there's a lot that it entails. Every single, like you mentioned, every single float would likely need barriers. You need those warning strips. This would entail basically restarting from ground zero. I think, the upland area of this whole site, I believe, is ADA accessible, all the trail
Would the boats
systems.
themselves have to be modified to allow?
I think so. I think it depends on, you could make your case with the accessibility board of you're only doing accessibility on one portion, but I'd have to look at other facilities that do that.
It's typically not something you ever see anywhere here in New England. It's a very rare thing. You would know, because first of all, you're talking about floats that are moving around.
Yeah.
So you would know whether you've seen one or not. It's not a normal occurrence.
Right. Plus, it's not within our jurisdiction.
No, it's just a
We're voting on the
discussion,
merits of
like
it.
Bill said, it's really just a discussion. Does it impact what we're gonna do here?
Okay. I mean, we'll vote on our jurisdiction, but if there is an issue that someone else wants to raise, they're free to do that.
If no other reason, I appreciate that you've allowed me to bring this subject up.
Yeah.
So that not just me, but other people are aware of the need, how limited it might be, the need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that it for public comment or questions? All right, can someone make a motion that we close the public hearing, please?
Make a motion that we close the public hearing for 35 River Street, DEP file 14-1415.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up, we need to vote on a waiver to permit work within the buffer zones as depicted in the NOI application.
All right, I'll make a motion, to issue a waiver for work within the buffer zone as depicted in the applicant's notice of intent.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll also,
No, go ahead.
Yeah. I'll also make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for DEP file number 14-1415, applicant Town of Danvers, that in connection with the order of conditions, we incorporate the comments as set out in letter April 25th, 2024, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries, specifically identifying that, one, that any activities requiring a barge should avoid barge grounding, that all staging and storage be located upland of the project site, that concern for fuel spills means that the applicant has to have adequate containment and cleanup material on site to avoid fuel spills, that if treated piles are used, the DMF recommends chromated copper arsenate. Are you familiar with that?
Yep, that's typically what is used in this environment.
All right. And Finally, minimizing the impacts of sound and turbidity from the piling installation, which would disturb the fish, that a slow start be used so as not to startle fish away from the site and not impact driving or jetting, be used to minimize the noise and turbidity, right?
Yep, correct.
And you've read all this?
Yep,
too.
correct.
So that's the motion?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Good luck. Okay, next up is a notice of intent for 191 Old Burley Street, DEP file number 14-1414. The applicant is Thomas Bear and Air Bear Aviation Incorporated, and Bill Manuel is here to represent them.
Yep, good evening, Bill Manuel from Wetlands and Land Management in Danvers. Mr. Bear, Tom Bear is here this evening. He was out of country last meeting and tried to attend virtually, but there was some connection problems. He could see but could not hear anything, but anyway, he was at the site visit and he's here tonight. He has a lease on hangar number 4. It's an existing building on the south side of the airport, and he intends to renovate the office side of this building and move the flight school from the main building on the north side down to here. Most of the work is cosmetic work on the exterior. There is, intend to do a paint job around these outside. Some windows and doors will be replaced. You can see we're removing some asphalt to dress the place up and put a nice planter strip in here. There will be an ADA compliant walkway and a ramp to get into the building. We are removing about 685 square feet of pavement. There's a proposed new observation deck, but that's over existing pavement, and it's actually outside the buffer zone. Here's the limit of the 100-foot buffer zone. The wetlands are, as I described to you and we saw on the site, pretty much at the base of old fill slope that was created for the taxiways and around the hangar. So it's a buffer zone only project, pretty straightforward. We're asking for an order of conditions.
Good. Bill, could you just point out where the waiver request is on the map?
Yep, so right there, this ADA ramp, as Tom explained on the site walk, it has to be a certain grade. It can't be any steeper than a certain pitch. And to achieve that, we need that length. And that length happens to encroach 9 square feet into the 50-foot no-build zone. Your bylaw says a sidewalk is a structure.
But that makes it handicap accessible.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty much the only, outside of the, some of the work being within our buffer zone, but not, it's outside of the 50-foot,
Right.
except for that 9 square feet. Okay. Mike, any questions?
No, I'd just say that would be, just to Bill's point, that's a good example of why we might consider handicap, only because you ask for a waiver, you want to have a good reason, and that's a good reason in this case. So, in favor of the waiver, that's all.
Okay. Jonathan?
Yeah, no real questions. Looks like you're removing some pavement in that same area, so there's more coming out than being proposed to be put in, so.
That's correct.
Oh, it's the same question again, Bill. You're going to have some excavation work taking place, so where is your erosion control on the?
So that erosion control, it goes right along the edge here. It's going to be a 12-inch diameter mulch sock.
Okay, and the wetlands board is on the shaded area there, which is that parking area that's,
What was your question?
the wetlands borders on the shaded area. Keep going to your left.
Yes,
yeah.
well, it's actually beyond that. So it's actually, you could see the contours here. The parking lot's fairly level, then it drops off. There's a graded slope that just drops off, and it's at the top of that slope.
Okay, and We had a question of the water exiting the wetlands. Did you research that any further?
Yeah, it apparently goes, it enters a catch basin here and then goes into a culvert that apparently goes off across the street in this direction.
We saw the flow from the wetland into the catch basin,
That's right.
and then we were wondering where it went from the catch basin, and...
Yep, the drainage map is available on the Danvers GIS system, and it goes across the road, through yards, and into the drainage system of the street below that. I think that's Old Burley Street
Old
below it.
Burley, yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, remember we saw that water, we didn't know where it went.
Yep.
Okay, Ann, any questions?
Well, if the gravel parking lot, I thought that was going to be eliminated. Did I misunderstand that?
Are you speaking of this part?
I believe that's what we were referring to
No.
earlier.
No, I thought you were gonna
Nope.
pave over it or
We're gonna
I think it
give it a milling and a repave and organize the parking there, get rid of the trash that's collected around here.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
I think, Ann, the pavement they're replacing or removing and not
Yeah.
replacing is right along the building.
Oh, that one
Right,
right there.
that's-
Okay.
Pavement
Yeah, that's
removed
what
there,
they're
Okay.
moving in.
and pavement removed where this planter will be.
Be.
And no increase in size on the parking area that you're
Correct.
restoring, right?
Correct.
So in your impervious surfaces.
Yeah.
It's actually,
Increasing
we have a
by whatever.
reduction of impervious surface with this project.
Good.
Yeah, well,
Okay, is there any questions from the public? Comments? None? Okay, let's close this public hearing then. Someone can make a motion?
Make a motion that we close the public hearing for DEP file number 14-1414, Old Burley Street.
And I'm still waiting for my prize for the file number, 14-1414.
Call George.
Do you know how long I've been waiting to file this application?
Whatever
Well-
good luck comes with that combination of numbers, that's your prize. right?
well, she made a motion.
Oh, I second the motion.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. All right, so next up, we have to issue a waiver. So someone can make a motion to that effect?
I make a motion to issue a waiver for the 9 feet of proposed ADA compliant sidewalk in the no-build zone.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and finally, the order of conditions.
Order of conditions here.
Order of conditions. Make a motion to issue an order of conditions.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to issue an order of conditions for DEP file number 14-1414,
191 Old Burley.
191 Old Burley Street.
And there are no special conditions that we want to attach, right?
No, it's
No, we
really
didn't
just
have it,
fixing
no.
up the building, really.
Right.
Right, no, that's,
Okay, no, we've issued the waiver. Okay. was
The
there-
erosion control for this one is already on the plan, so we don't have to put that as an extra condition. It's just according to the plans.
okay.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, where are we?
Good luck with the school. Are you going to be involved with the school?
I will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about training the kids.
Yeah. All right.
And Ann, you missed it, but we did get to see, and Jonathan, we did get to see.
Oh, we saw the blimp.
We saw the blimp land and then
Yeah,
flying down.
that was impressive.
It was made,
Yeah.
made the visit
That was
totally
the hood,
worthwhile.
was that the hood mill? What was, no, it was,
Dick's Sporting Goods.
oh, Dick's Sporting Goods, yeah.
Okay.
I think Hood has one, too.
I did see it flying overhead last week.
All right, next up is, you're welcome.
Bye now.
Request for determination of applicability at 100 Independence Way, RDA file 2024-03. The applicant is the Massachusetts Port Authority.
Good evening. My name's Mike Gilmet. I'm an assistant director at Massport. I'm here with Will Schieffer from HNTB. He's our engineer. I think what we're asking for tonight is pretty straightforward. However, we will be back again in front of you in June. We're going to be applying in May. And if you could, I'll kind of give you a Reader's Digest, so just so you know what we're trying to do out here. So Logan Express was in Peabody, Mass. Along Route 1, and it was highly unsuccessful because it was very logistically difficult to get to. You could only get to it by Old Route 1. Otherwise, if you came up 95, you had to go all the way up, loop back, come to Lowell Street, back around.
It was on the southbound side, was it?
It
I
was,
remember.
yes.
Yeah.
And then you couldn't get there northbound, you had to go to Lowell Street. It really was a failing endeavor,
I
right?
liked the Route 1
So
location.
we ended up closing that facility a few years back. And, but then there was a lot of political pressure from state senators, representatives, et cetera, to serve the North Shore. So that happened 2 years ago. We started looking at properties. We thought we had to deal with Simon Properties. We're going to go in there temporarily at the North Shore Mall. You're probably familiar where we are on Prospect Street over at the North Shore Mall. We were going in there temporarily, and we're going to have a permanent facility ultimately on the North Shore Mall. Well, it didn't play out how we expected. There were the development plans for the North Shore Mall didn't move at the right pace. The site we were on, there's a hotel that's going in there, and for lack of a better term, we're being evicted. So we're trying to do something. We won't have an interruption of service. We probably looked at 30 sites. The site that we ultimately closed in on and thought was the best to serve the North Shore is at the Liberty Tree Mall behind the state police station where we're storing the school buses for the past several years.
Not the local police station, you mean?
That's, yeah, that's the Danvers Police Station, right on Ash Street, at the corner of Sylvan and Ash.
Yeah, they do car shows in that lot, too.
What about our car show?
Going to
So they,
75
So they
Sylvan
do
Street.
have a, so, yeah, oh, well, they do have a new area on the Liberty Tree Mall where they're going to be doing the car show, which that's actually sponsored by the Danvers Police, so we're not trying to make enemies out there, and we're actually working with the Danvers Police. I spoke to the chief just this afternoon. You know, they have access through this lot. They park some of their cars there, so we're trying to work through some of that stuff with them. So right now, we're looking at taking the Peabody Logan Express and moving, I don't know, are you all familiar with it? So there's, that was intended to be temporary. So we have a fairly nice temporary office trailer where people can wait in. We have a toilet trailer, which doesn't sound nice, but they're actually very nice. And then we have a bus shelter. We're looking at moving those over to the Danvers site for temporary use now. When I say temporary, it's for probably a year and a half. We're designing a building. So it's not just the site behind the police station, but Danvers Electric actually paved a site just to the right of it or just to the east of it. We actually signed a lease on both properties. So right now, for tonight, we're kind of talking about building a temporary facility on the site behind the police station, but we're bringing in power from that Danvers Electric site.
Right.
So we will be back in June because on that Danvers Electric site, we're looking to put a permanent building. It'll be a single-story building.
Yep.
That's a later conversation. The reason we're here tonight is to talk about bringing in temporary power over the trailers, which involves bringing in 3 utility poles, which would be within the buffer. So that's, for all practical purposes, kind of why we're here tonight, and you'll be seeing us again in a month and a half from now. So with that said, I'll turn it over to my engineer, Will Schreifer, and if you have any questions afterwards.
Talk about what the operation's gonna be once you get rolling.
Right, so the, ultimately, we're going to have 500-plus spaces, parking spaces over there. We'll have revenue controls, we'll have fence all the way around the entire property, nice fence. We're actually going in there with a 40-year lease. We're not looking to come into Danvers with something disruptive. We want to be a good neighbor. We want to work with the town, work with something that works for everybody. So the way the operation works, we have revenue control gates. We'll have the building, you can go in and purchase tickets. You park, I believe the rate is, so I'm from the design and construction group. Hopefully I don't screw up the rates, but we have a ground transportation group that actually, I build for them. And I believe it's $6 a day to park there.
Have you
And
been to planning? I mean, are there traffic concerns? You said 500.
So we had the planning board meeting in this room on Tuesday. So we have a traffic analysis, which later Will can address in more detail. His firm did it. However, the vehicle counts are actually very low compared to like the mall, retail, office building. People park on this site, but they're going away, they're traveling. So they're there for days or weeks. And the traffic counts are very low. Will could probably touch on that, and give you a little more detail on that.
But I was curious.
Right, no,
how
it's,
that
and
worked. Yeah.
we're happy to share anything. I know the site, if you look at it right now, it's been pretty neglected for a long period of time. There's a lot of trash out there. The drainage system is, well, I don't want to get into details. We'll touch on all that, but it's more for June. But to answer your question, so we will have buses that come through there once an hour. A bus comes in, they pull in, they park, they shut off. They're required to shut off the bus. They could never idle for more than 5 minutes, and we're very stringent about that. And we load it up, and it goes back out. So there will be a bus coming through every hour. The bus locations are the furthest point from the residential area. And in the permanent facility, they'll be even further from the residential area. But it's $6 a day to park, and I think it's like $9 for the trip into Logan. So it's, a nice service. At North Shore Mall, it's been very successful. And when I say successful, Massport loses money on these things. This isn't, it's to lower emissions and get shared travel, right? So it's definitely a benefit to the Commonwealth, but it's not a financial motivation of Massport.
But environmentally, it is a good thing. Yeah.
Right, and one other thing I would mention is we are converting our fleet to electric. Massport has an initiative, you may have seen it in the news a few years ago. Lisa Wheeland, when she took over as our CEO, she, in 2021, said in 10 years, Massport will be net zero on carbon emissions. So we are striving to fulfill the goal that she set, but then she left, but we're still trying to do it. So we're doing our best. Any other questions before I turn it over to my engineer?
Just one quick question, and maybe your engineer might touch on it. But the town's project was before us within the last several months, and they said this parking lot was built to be used as a substitute, I think, for what they're going to take over to build a new substation. Is there a conflict there?
We've actually been working with Massport Electric, so what we're going to show tonight, where we're bringing temporary power, they actually have an easement going behind that lot, coming off the lot. Will can speak more about that when he shows the plan.
Who has an easement? The town does?
The town is going to have an easement behind the lot. I'll let Will speak to that because I don't want to say something that's not completely accurate. But he can speak to that. But no, there is no conflict. We've spoken with them. We're working in unison. And there will be some paved area actually over that easement because they're taking the overhead lines and put them underground. But it's one of those, if it's disturbed, it's on us to replace the pavement.
Okay. Okay.
All right, great. Thank you.
Hi, Will Striefer, as Mike had mentioned, with HNTB, with the civil site engineer for the project. So to touch on the traffic thing real quick, just so you have your answer, we took a look at cars coming in and out of Peabody. There's a memo that was associated with the planning board application that was before the board on Tuesday. Basically, what we found at Peabody, the max vehicle trips per hour that we saw was about 26. It's pretty slow operation as far as peak traffic goes, and the peak is like 3 to 5 a.m. rather than the traditional rush hour traffic, so not a lot of traffic, and it's very offset from there. If you want more information, you can definitely take a look at that memo, or attend the meetings that we're going to be having on the full project at Planning Board. I'm sure it'll come up. As Mike mentioned, why we're here today, and if you can go to the proposed plan. So that is, that's the survey. There we go, right there.
Hold on a second, I need a minute. This is labeled as site plan, but it looks like,
That I just know that's the survey. The other plan is just the one that I wanted to take a look at. You had it up for a second.
no.
That's it.
There it is.
All right. Just so for context, these are the trailers that were mentioned, rental operations, restroom, and bus shelter. So we're placing them in an existing bank on that parking lot as part of this temporary work, and this is just temporary condition to get us in there. We're really not changing anything about the lot other than doing some restriping to allow for different circulation to place those trailers down. There's some small site work. We're putting in some bollards to protect the trailers. We're doing a little bit of curb rework to accommodate the bus turning movements in and out of the lot. The bus is going to come in this way and turn around there. So that's why there's a little bit of tree trimming from some of the landscaping that's on there to do that. The main reason that we're here is this temporary electric service. So as Mike had mentioned, we've been in conversation with Danvers Electric about how to get power to here. This is just the condition for very temporary. As Mike had mentioned, they're going to be going underground. This is the overhead pole here. They're taking the whole thing underground through here. So this pole is actually going to be coming out sometime next year. We don't have the exact timeline. It's sometime in the spring, maybe April, maybe May. So this is literally just for a little bit less than a year, this condition would be for these temporary poles. So this is an existing pole that's in the no disturb, the no disturb right here. We're proposing one. And where we tried to place the poles was generally right at the lot, within the limits, the landscape islands of the lot that just went in, so we'd be minimizing any sort of disturbance. It is an overhead wire to any trees or vegetation that was in the area, so we're using the existing pole. This proposed one within the no disturb here.
Where is the wetlands?
This is the wetland right here. We did the delineation in February. It's an isolated land subject to flooding. There's no inlet or outlet that's connected to anything else, but it is about 2.14 acres, and the Danvers bylaw provides protection under your regulations for anything larger than 5,000 square feet. So we're significantly over that, and it is wetlands area, just not subject to any Mass DEP buffer zones. It's all local with Danvers. So pretty much all we'd be doing in the buffer zone is some small site work, and then largely just putting in these poles. So we have pole going in here, erosion control to protect anything there. Same thing over there, and connecting to one last pole and going underground to where we're connecting to the service there. There's some small tree trimming. I think there's one tree that we're proposing to trim that's within the buffer zone that is right here. But other than that, that's all we're proposing to do as part of this application. As Mike had mentioned, we're coming through with the final condition with a full NOI application that'll include everything that we're hoping to do on this lot. And obviously, we will be in the buffer zones at some point for all of that work, but this is just about the temporary electric service and the small amount of site work that's within.
So that's all you're asking us for, is basically for these two poles to be
Three poles.
Yeah,
within our buffer zone.
exactly. And as I mentioned, they're temporary, going to be there less than a year.
Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but where are your permanent buildings going to be?
So it's all being drafted. We're finalizing those plans now. The permanent building will be in this area. There'll be a small short-term parking lot that's over here. And then we're going to be building out the larger parking lot to add some spaces, especially stretching up along this. And a little bit right over here. Again, that'll all be kind of detailed, as well as, stormwater mitigation, everything else that goes along with it in that full application.
And all that parking area will be gate controlled?
Yes.
And the mall has no issues with that?
No. So they attended the meeting on Tuesday where we discussed it. The mall has something like 3,920 parking spaces that are there. We're talking about taking about, I think it's 430 for the larger lot and 95 for the smaller lot. So it's, I think, less than 8% of their total spaces. Per the bylaws, the planning board bylaws, they're over-parked. They don't need as much parking space as they do. And anecdotally, these parking spaces are essentially never used for the mall. They've been used for bus storage, they're used for parking of personal vehicles.
Right.
It's really not necessary by the bylaws and by, what we're actually seeing out there for the operation of the mall.
Okay, now, there's a wetland between this project and the new storage building. Is that going to be impacted at all in the?
It's not. It's about 300 or 400 feet this way.
Right.
Off the bottom of the page there. We're not going to be even close.
Okay. Let me pass it along to members of the board. Mike, have any questions?
Well, it really just, they're asking for a finding that, of non-applicability, say. So we're saying that, and Brian was saying that this is not applicable. We're asking for a
Negative.
finding that it's not applicable, that our bylaw is not applicable in this case. So how do they get to, how can they ask for how do we issue waivers?
Says a negative
Well,
determination.
We're not issuing waivers on this.
we
law?
can put, so you can still put conditions on it. So this, we're talking about 3 utility poles that are located within the buffer zone that are not going to be there permanently.
Yeah.
But
But
they still need the waiver to get the
Yeah.
negative determination, I believe.
But can we, in other words, can we say, our bylaw is not applicable and then turn around and grant waivers under the bylaw?
Well, you are still waiving what is allowed, and you're saying because you're waiving it, you are doing a negative determination. There's no conditions here, right? Like, it's just saying whether or not these poles can be allowed or not. To take your point a little further, if you don't issue the waivers and only just issue a negative determination, I don't think that's like a full comprehensive decision.
Well, when were they gonna do the work? I mean, why wasn't this part of the June thing?
Well, I'll let them answer that, yeah.
Yeah, I think Mike's best suited to answer. I could give a partial answer, but he's got it.
So, so with what happened at the North Shore Mall, we took that temporary lot, and we intended to be there with a permanent facility over there. We're evicted, so to speak, because a hotel is going in there. So we need to leave that site. So it's not really desirable to us that we need to move quickly. However, we're
Just
trying,
get you up and running.
we're trying to do this without
basis.
interruption service.
Yep.
So we wouldn't be able to do that with a permanent application and the permanent build-out of the facility. So that's why we're in here tonight, looking to do this on a temporary basis.
All right,
All right, that makes it better in my eyes.
that makes it better.
Okay, Mike, any other questions?
No.
Jonathan?
I just had a question about the installation of the temporary utility poles. The assumption is that they're normal-sized utility poles, 30 feet, 40 feet, whatever they are. And therefore, the assumption is that they're installed with traditional construction equipment.
Yes,
With an
they'd be
auger.
installed by, I believe, Danvers Electric. So the final size will be determined by them, but yes, traditional install.
Okay.
These are just to get power over to these temporary buildings, and once the new buildings are put up, this will be removed?
Yeah, this is just to get power there immediately. As soon as it goes underground, we're going to be supplying power to these trailers, because these trailers will exist, in the space between when this overhead comes down and goes underground, and until we get to the final building built. This is just to have electric service while that's still overhead. The underground service is going to be proposed from a manhole that's around here, and eventually those trailers will run off of that. In the interim, until the overhead comes down, it'll be running from there. So that connection will also be shown in what comes before you with the full NOI, but this is just temporary condition for the trailers and the temporary condition of the overhead wire in this area.
Okay. Ann, any questions?
No. Hooray.
Okay,
Since
what
I-
is your timing on this?
We'll be submitting for the NOI for the May 6th deadline, and I think starting construction, our timing is, when we have approval to do so, and we've gone past any appeal period, so.
But you don't need an NOI to do this temporary.
Exactly.
Well, again, this is just for the utility poles. The NOI that they would be coming in for in June would be for the full build-out of a building, expanded pavement, the full nine. So
Poles will already be in when they come in.
probably
Poles
not.
will already be
I don't
in.
think it'll be in by, do you think they'll be in the next 3 weeks? No.
No.
We still need Danvers Electric to go through the work order, the application, and part of that is coming before you for this RDA.
Okay. And do you have any erosion control provisions for,
So we're showing erosion control at the 2 new poles that are being installed within the buffer zone. It's a little bit difficult to see from this scale, but I'll just point them out for you. Erosion control here, and erosion
And there.
control there, with those 2 that are being installed adjacent to the parking lot within the buffer zone.
What's the nature of what kind of erosion control? Is it socks, or what is it?
Typically, we would do, the silt socks.
Are we expecting that there's any temporary disturbance to allow access for the equipment installing the poles?
I would say no, mainly because it's all paved right next to there, and we put those poles as close as we could to where the paving is, so right here is parking lot, poles going right there, right here is parking lot, poles going right there. Equipment may be on vegetated areas for a short period of time, but access is kind of provided by the paved lot that's already there.
okay, good. Ann, are you all set?
Can I just mention, I just want everyone to be aware, so you will see us out on site in the next several weeks, outside of the buffer area, doing normal site so it's strewn with trash out there. The mall had shopping carts, you go through the wetland area, there's all kinds of
Yep.
junk out there. We're going to be restriping, cleaning it up, pruning all the trees, the shrubs, normal maintenance, which we're allowed to do. I just want to point that out, so if you drive by, you see some activity, that's all that we're doing. We're just cleaning everything up and getting it, in conditions for the temporary facility. The permanent build-out of the site, though, won't happen until after we come through in June and hopefully receive a order of conditions. And at that point, we do the heavier construction, the things associated with that.
Is this a public hearing, Brian? Is there any public comment, questions? Mr. Bradstreet?
Is this still on, number 6?
I think so. I'm not sure. There's nothing saying that it isn't. Go ahead, Bill.
Bill Bradstreet, town meeting member, precinct 1. I was at the meeting when they made their presentation.
To the
Oh, that-
planning board?
Yes, so that they don't have to deal with the conservation or wetlands area. I know it's not your business, but my suggestion was if they move to the front on Endicott Street, there's plenty of parking, a nice clean area. They could do their building there and not be involved with you folks as far as the wetland, even if it is temporary. There was a suggestion on my part because I listened to their presentation, and to me, as a layperson, I thought it made more reasonable work, because there are other things that you won't be dealing with. But that area, as opposed to the paved area on Endicott Street, made to me, a better progress project or what have you.
Which area are you talking about, Bill?
Where the car dealership is, across from Burger King or what have you.
Okay.
Where the
There's a
the Firestone place?
Yeah, I believe that's it. And there's the car dealer across. As the mall parking was overbuilt because of our standards in the past, there's a lot of parking space out there that isn't being utilized. It's already paved. All they'd have to do is, my opinion, would be to utilize that area and not have to but not have to come before you folks to deal with this situation. Just a comment on my part, because I was at the other meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Hearing none? Okay, so I guess our first order of business is to close the public hearing.
Or am I-
So someone can make a motion to that effect, please?
Where am I closing? Okay.
Right here.
All right. Okay. I make a motion that we close the public hearing for 100 Independence Way, RDA file number 2024-03.
Okay, the motion's been made to close the public hearing.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Okay, what's our consensus?
Well, the motion for waivers?
But
Right.
there are no waivers, are there? I think we're just going to determine if it's a negative determination.
Yeah, we know, we want to grant the 3 waivers, and, yeah.
Peter, I mean. So, I'll make a motion, can I see that back?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we grant the 3 waivers and issue a negative determination of applicability. So we're saying that the bylaw is not applicable, however, based on the representation by the applicant, that all the work that's being proposed is temporary so that they can proceed, and there is no permanent disturbance to the buffer zones or wetland areas proposed as represented by the applicant, that we go ahead and grant these 3 waivers that I understand are temporary. So that in connection with the finding, the determination
Negative determination.
of non-applicability. A negative determination of applicability is another way to say that.
Second the motion?
I was going to say, is that your motion?
That's the motion.
Okay, I second.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we look forward to seeing you folks again
Yeah.
in 6 weeks or so.
All right, thank you for your time. I really
Get
appreciate
that
it.
lot cleaned up.
Mike, I don't know if you remember, but I coached one of your boys in Little League. Noah?
One of Noah's friends is on the board, Mike Nicholas.
Oh, really?
I coach Jim Sears on hockey.
It's a small world.
Nice to see you again.
Good, thanks, you too.
Yeah, nice night.
Good night now, thank you.
all.
All right.
All right, next up is a notice of intent for 191 Old Burley Street, DEP file number 14-1411.
Flight level aviation.
Yep, the applicant is here online, Mr. Bob Lawrence, representing Flight Level Aviation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Thank you for taking the time. I'm sure it's been a long day and a long evening for everyone, so I will be very brief. I know it's the end of the meeting, so everybody, I'm sure, is eager to leave and get home. I want to thank the commission and the town for coordinating the efforts on the requested peer review that was performed by Ty and Bond. We received the report back yesterday afternoon. We went through it late yesterday afternoon, and we're currently responding to the comments, revising the drawings and the design documents, and rerunning calculations as requested. We plan to return the comments back to the town, or the responses back to the town next Friday, the 26th, and the goal is to be on the agenda, if it works for everyone, which I believe is May 9th, Thursday, May 9th. So that's a quick synopsis of it. But again, I want to thank, there were a lot of moving parts to all this, to coordinate everything, and thank everyone for that. Any questions?
May 9th?
Yeah, I did read the letter from the peer review, and there seemed to be a fairly significant amount of comments that they made.
Yep.
And those are still in the process of being resolved, is that a fair way
So,
to say it?
yeah, the peer review just got issued yesterday, or maybe Tuesday. The engineering department reviewed the memo from Ty and Bond and was very comfortable with, I have an email from him, there's no memo from the engineering department, but basically, or not basically, the engineer said very clearly that if they follow the Ty and Bond peer review in terms of the comments and conditions that they put, he feels extremely comfortable. The applicant has basically said, we want to address those comments fully, so they're asking for a continuance till May 9th so that they can give us a full response, because we just got it 2 days ago.
That's what we want too.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're more or less continuing until they resolve.
So, we're going to get a response memo from the applicant that engineering will review, and then engineering will have a final comment, saying that things are resolved or not. But it seems like everything is going in the right direction. The applicant has looked over the memo and has not challenged anything yet, so it's looking good.
Okay, so we're looking to continue the public hearing then.
To May 9th.
All right, before I do that, did you folks have any comments?
Tish Lentini, 200 Old Burley Street. Are the documents that you're talking about available for us as the public to review as well?
Always.
Great.
Of course.
So how would we go about getting those?
I can send them to you right now.
Awesome. And did you get all of our video and photographs?
We did.
We did.
We
get those
did. I think it's
Wonderful.
it's in their file.
Glad
It's
to
in their
hear it.
electronic file as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay, so let's vote to continue, please.
I make a motion that we continue the hearing for 191 Old Burley Street, DEP file 14-1411, to the May 9th meeting. 9th, is it?
Right.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thanks, Bob, so we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Old or new business, I guess the first thing we ought to review is meeting minutes.
I read the minutes, yeah. The only thing I would note would be that I think it should say that it was, the motion to close the meeting was either seconded by me or Peter, because I don't think you can second your own motion, Ann.
Did I do that?
No, I think
It might have been a mistake on our part. It might have been a mistake on our part, so we can make that change.
Just fix that.
I don't remember one way or the other. Okay.
Okay, so someone can make a motion, we'll accept those?
I make a
Accept
motion
them.
that we
Oh,
accept
accept the
the
minutes.
minutes for, what was our last meeting day there?
The 11th as amended.
Yeah.
Yep.
As amended.
All in favor? Oh, is there a second?
No, I
Did
don't
you
think-
second?
I seconded, okay.
All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Okay.
old or new business? Brian, a couple questions on new members?
Yes. So, unfortunately, Vanessa Curran did, in fact, she left the commission. But our deputy member, Mary Haight, sorry. She will be joining, she was not able to come this evening, but she will be able to join us as a full member. She's already been sworn in, so she will be our fifth and final member moving forward. I also wanted to mention that over the next several months, Miss Emily Beatrice, as of Monday, will be starting as the new planner in our department, who will be staffing conservation. The both of us are going to be staffing Conservation Commission over the next probably 3 to 4 months, and then I will be handing over the responsibilities of staffing this meeting to Emily. So it's big congratulations to her.
Nice.
Nice promotion, and now we're going to be actually looking for someone to replace her as an admin. So it's been a little, little tough for a few months here as the previous planner left. So we're picking up the pieces, and we are moving forward, and we're really happy to have Emily transition into this new position.
Good.
Okay, good to hear.
The only thing I missed when I first came on, we used to have some kind of training sessions they would organize or discuss different things like issues like the typical issues that come up. It was always helpful for new members. I wonder if
Yeah.
you'd be contemplating that in the future.
And would these trainings be happening at a meeting, or this was like at
Yeah.
a separate, like a separate?
Sometimes before a meeting or
state random.
sometimes on another date.
I'd be happy to talk to Emily about all of that. Also because new wetlands regs have come out at the state level that are more challenging than previously. So there is going to be a little bit above a bumpy road for everybody, kind of learning all these new regs.
Okay, yeah, just to get her up to speed.
Yeah, I went to the session, training session before I started.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The state ran it.
Okay,
Well,
one
Georgia
final.
used to do them too.
Yeah, but the one that I went to was, the state was running it for, I guess, a whole bunch of.
Right.
Well, we went into Worcester for the, did you go?
Yes, I did.
You went, Peter. You
Couple
went.
times, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I will not be here on the 9th, so that means the 3 remaining members, plus if Mary's here, we would have 4.
I will also not, I'll be in Hawaii on the 9th.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a shame.
I might be
All right,
able
but
to
you'll
video
be here,
in.
we gotta make sure
on business,
Mary's
right?
here then.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you confirm that Mary will be here, so that's gonna be our quorum?
For next week,
Yeah.
for the next time?
Next,
Yeah.
yeah, May.
Yep, I can
And then,
definitely, she said she was supposed to be here for the next one. It was just this one that she wasn't able to.
Yeah, we won't be able to proceed without her.
Right.
Right.
So
And then
you're, I'm sorry, I missed it, I was taking notes. So, Michael, you're not going to be here?
I'll be here, Peter can't be here.
I'll be here.
He's gonna be in Hawaii.
Okay, so Mary is a must.
Go
I got it.
online.
I got it.
Oh, you don't.
All right, so Mary is a must. I got it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll give applicants the choice if they're not
We
comfortable.
will
just
alert the
three-
applicants to
three
let them
on
know
board.
if they wish to continue. That is their right to
that.
continue if they would prefer a full board.
Right.
You know, think about it though, let's say you have 4 members versus 3. It doesn't change anything.
No, you still need 3.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is,
So just,
with 4 members, you need all 3. With 3 members, you only need 2
to pass something.
to pass something.
On a voting
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah, the majority of the people that are there, correct.
Yeah.
But just questions that are being asked, whatever, they just, the more
Yeah,
people that ask
yeah.
questions, the better. Okay, I think that's it, unless anyone else has anything else.
No?
No.
Okay, someone make a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn the meeting.
Someone else has to
I
say.
will second that adjournment, that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, have a good night all, thank you.